Hello, everybody, and good morning. I've had a couple of comments asking why did I pick Ubuntu as a distribution, and and recommendations about which distribution they can pick. Before we begin this video that you might end up sharing, we gotta be objective, we gotta be fair. So I do have to say beforehand that I've been an Ubuntu member for more than 10 years. I've been or was a former Ask Ubuntu, which is a community-driven question and answer site, and former Ask Ubuntu moderator for almost 9 years or 9 years and something I forgot. Um, and I've been actively engaged in basically promoting Ubuntu for I would say around 2008, 2006, something like that. Still, but um, I also do understand the 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 criticism that Ubuntu has had over the past, let's put it like this, 5 years more or less, between some decisions in regards to games that affected Steam, that could have affected Steam, especially with 32-bit, between privacy decisions that were related to Amazon, between package management in regards to Snap, and other tiny decisions in regards to from Unity to GNOME or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I gotta put that all on the table before I begin with this whole video about what is a distribution and which one you should be looking for. Okay. Obviously, the video is gonna end up me recommending Ubuntu, but before we get there, you are gonna be thinking about other distributions as well, depending on where you are in what I call like the stairs of or the steps in which end distribution you're going to be uh, hopping to there. So we got to begin around 2000, okay, around the year 2000, 2001, and that's where this one comes in. So if you're really, really old school Linux, then you know about this SVG. Okay, you know what I'm about to show you. The Linux distributions timeline. Okay, it was created by a whole group of people there. Actually, it's a specific one, Fabio, and you know they took it from there and they've been basically enhancing it. The last time that I saw this file was around 2015. So they obviously they've been keeping up to date with the whole thing. It's 2023 already. So we want to go back so you can get an idea on basically my life because it will be your life with the whole distro hopping. So I'm just giving you the history so it might save you some decision making or time. So you can speed up the whole process, at least in your life, okay? And decide, well, I'm gonna stay with this one or that other one. I'm gonna test just a small group of distributions to get an idea. To get an idea. It is very good to test several distributions so you can get an idea, especially about the package management that they use because there's multiple ones. Um, how their Linux file system is structured. That's another very important one, especially where the configuration files are. So what's that useful for? Well, it could be useful for configuring, your game, or mainly in my case, it could be useful for configuring fast configurations for work-related stuff or server-related stuff. For example, if you have a Raspberry Pi, um, it, there's specific changes that you gotta do there. If you have a really old laptop, maybe you need to configure something there, et cetera, et cetera. So remember, Linux is like everywhere. It's like a virus now. But around 2001, it was for users like me, which were actually migrating from Windows XP at the moment to Windows 2000, or some Millennium. Millennium was the crappiest software that I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, in my particular case, I was migrating from Windows XP to 2000 because the service pack 2 or 3, I forgot which one, made the whole computer so stable. And even though it was a Windows version for servers, you were actually able to configure it for workstation, and the thing just it was much more stable than Windows XP, and faster than Windows XP, but much more stable than the Millennium version. Okay, so at that moment I was like, yeah, well, yeah, Windows, it's the beast, all this and all that. And then my brother and others actually started mentioning to me, hey, there's this thing that is not Apple, it's not something from IBM or Oracle, called Linux. And I'm like, okay, but does it have a company behind it? No. Okay, so that doesn't give me a lot of incentive or stability in regards to the support that I might have using it. But the premise there was, hey, let's be adventurous, let's test this whatever this thing is, and let's play around it because you actually learn how computers actually work with it, and that actually interested me a lot. So the first one that I tested. By the way, I did test Slackware, but I didn't test it in 1990 something. I most likely tested it between 2001 2004. So I tested Slackware, Vector Linux. I actually tested it, Slack, Wax. Let me see which one. ZenWalk. I did test it. Um, Agile Linux there. Um, I'm just gonna scroll down from the Slackware family, and they have their own package system and structure, everything. Okay, so that's what I was saying. It's good that you can jump from one family of Linux distributions, being the mother of them all here, Slackware, to others down here, so you can get an idea on how package management works, how the structure of the file system is made. They're very similar, but it helps you mainly for work related reasons. Okay, if you're not looking into Linux for work, just gaming, okay, or specific tools, then it really doesn't matter which one you pick. You just pick the one that's more um, compatible with the software because you're not really caring about other things. um, that's a very dangerous thing to say, but it's because you're only caring about one specific thing. So whichever is recommended by the community about for that software is the one that you should basically stick with. In my case, is again Ubuntu. But on the Slackware, I tested what, like 5, 6 different distributions here. I can't complain there. On Debian, you can see like, holy Jesus. So obviously, I tested Debian. There's most people actually have tested Debian at some point. They actually criticize Debian a lot, but that's just, I'm sorry, but that's just BS. Okay? This thing just runs great. And yeah, sure, you gotta configure a lot of things, but um, compared to Ubuntu. But after you do configure them, then you're done. Let me see which ones I've tested here with Debian. Mm, Let me see. Estrella Roja, I tested it, but it was just a quick test there. Here's the Linux Mint. I tested that one too. Obviously Ubuntu, which is inside here somewhere, but I don't see it. Um, Let me see. Raspbian, I tested it. MX Linux. I won't remember all of them, just in case. Voyage Linux, I did. Let me see what else here. Robo Linux. I never tested SteamOS. Um, Let me see. I don't see something that I can. Triskel. Migo. Oh my God. Migo. Okay. Kubuntu. Obviously, all the derivatives of Ubuntu. So Kubuntu, I did Gobuntu, Subuntu, Edubuntu. I don't see it anywhere here, but Ubuntu Studio because of the things that I was doing. Lubuntu. Like I started testing actually on Ask Ubuntu. There's one of the questions actually goes into details about the usage of resources and all that. I actually ended up testing all of them in a period of like a month to 2 months in regards to performance and all that. Ubuntu Mate, KDE Neon, Pop OS, a lot of the derivatives from Ubuntu. Wow, that's That's a lot of derivatives. Okay. Um, I did test. So Peppermint OS has a nice flavor. Good. Uh, let me see. Backtrack, obviously backtrack. Mm, XPMC. Crunchback. Yeah. Oh, the Rescue remix. Jesus, that one saved me a couple of times. Um, well, here's Linux Mint. And Ubuntu, never tested that one. And Ubuntu I did. Mepis. Oh yeah. And simply Mepis. Yeah. This one I really love. Here's Lindos. Okay. So Lindos is it's a it's a distribution that looks like Windows. Linspire, that one too. I didn't test FreeSpire, Linspire. Simply Mepis. Where's Puppy Linux? Well, oh NoPix. Oh NoPix. I remember when this one came with a you bought a magazine, actually the thing just came with it. Um, NoPix. Damn small Linux. Oh, DSL. They, it's called damn small Linux, by the way, because of how damn small it is. Oh my god, I died. Crap. Well, that's one of the points that I wanted to say. But this thing was super small, super light. I mean, if you install on the computer started floating. Symfony OS, very good. Backtrack here. Do know that you have backtrack here, and let me show you. Here's you have backtrack because it was jumping between distributions or giving you the opportunity to use it in multiple um, versions of the distributions on Linux. Okay, base it on a couple there. Let me see. Sandros. I did test Sandros. Is this Coral? Oh yeah, it is. Okay, so that one I also tested. Let's go here. Well, I don't see Mandrake. I did test Mandrake PC Linux OS. Um, I didn't test any of those. Let me see what I see here somewhere. Tyson. I did test Tyson, and we're still testing Tyson. Migo, Nokia, and all that. Um, Here's Fedora. I did test Fedora there. CentOS, obviously CentOS. You do need to, in regards to working environment, CentOS was one of the best ones years ago. The thing is just dying right now. It's bleeding. They created CentOS stream, but yeah, that's not the impact in the industry is not gonna be fun there. I did test Red Hat, but not the enterprise Linux. I didn't have money. Well, okay, that's it. Yeah, I tested Red Hat here. It actually came with some universities, and you were able to Oracle Linux tested that baby there. And I can't even find the first one that I tested. Turbo Linux, I did test that baby there too. Clear OS. Con data. SUSE Linux, and then OpenSUSE. Yeah, I didn't test Enoch. I did test Gen 2, which is the thing that you have here. And I tested Gen 2 and I tested the derivative of it. Let me see if I can find it here. I know there was Sabayon, but that's not the one that I was looking for. It was Funtu, something like that. Yeah, I don't see it here. Arch Linux, they test Arch Linux at the time where, and Archbank too, at the time where I really didn't care about the installation process. I do care now. And I want to go, that's one of the other points. Ease of use. Uh, the system rescue for it is very good. I can say that. The documentation about Arch is also very good for games and stuff. Oh, Caldera Open Linux. So this is the first one that I started with, Caldera. Okay, so with Caldera Linux, it was like the beginning of what year is that? Let me see. No, that's just BS. I started using Caldera like around 2001, so impossible for me to be using it, you know, when I was a kid. So I started. So the moment I started using Caldera is when they basically did this here. It's my fault. Crap. So yeah, I started using Caldera there. I love the experience of it. Um, DOS Linux. I started also using that one, but over here, even though it was deprecated already. And anyway, you get the idea. There's a lot of distribution. Oh, if you have a router, you know what this is. You know this, baby. Um, Puppy Linux. Look at that, baby. Yeah. So Puppy Linux was another amazing one, like NoPix, and then Small Linux and all that. It was very fun at that moment. Off crack. For you know what. Alpine Linux. Very good one. Very good one indeed. Tiny Core. Oh yeah. Man, there's a LibreElect, OpenElect, LibreElect, you know, the thing happening with the community. So there's a lot of history here. Lineage OS, that went to CyanogenMod. I worked there also. Anyway, there's a ton of there's a lot of here. Well, but you get the point. There's a lot of distributions. You can bunny hop your Counter Strike way through all this, and you can get a lot of experience over the years. But at the end of the day, what are we looking for in a distribution? So what is a distro or Linux distribution? Basically, let's compare it against Windows. Okay, so on Windows, and let's put it here. On Windows, you got Windows. Okay, I'm not gonna start with 3.1 or something, which is I actually started with 2.0, the MS-DOS and all that. But let's start Windows 95. You got Windows 98, and then you got Windows ME, Windows, NT, Windows 2000. Okay, and we can keep on going. Okay, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever made up numbers are gonna come up with. And these are what you call versions of Windows. Okay, on Linux you got the Linux core or the kernel, or where people say GNU Linux. Shut the hell up. It's the same thing. Okay, they can add the philosophy there, but that whole GNU is basically you saying Windows 95 copyright. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter if they say GNU with a new or just Linux. Same thing. You got the core, which is the kernel in this case for the operating system, and then whatever name you want to put the distribution. So in the case of Ubuntu, you got Ubuntu, okay, which is one. Imagine one Windows-like system. So you got Linux Ubuntu there, and you got Linux or Arch Linux. Let's put it like that, so I don't put the core before it. There you go. Okay, and you got Fedora Linux, which are basically the first name, last name of all of them. And then inside each of them, in the case of Ubuntu, for example, if it says 2010, which is the version, same thing as here, you got Windows and then the version. Then that 2010 is the version for this Ubuntu distribution. Fedora has it, Arch has its own. It's just a Arch is rolling release, so you might see something like a year. Okay. You got Fedora with numbers 17, 18, 19, whatever, and those are the versions. But in the case of Ubuntu, for example, this one tells you that it's from the year 2020 in October. So if you see 2010, it means that it came out on October 2020. If you see, well, the next one from this video is going to be 2304. So it's going to be April 2023. Okay. There's two types of distributions. Well, there's multiple types, but the big ones are they come up every certain amount of months. Okay. They're more stable. They typically are more stable. Okay. They come up There's some that come up every 3 months or 2 months. There's some that are 6 months. There's some that are 12 months. Okay. In the case of Ubuntu, we're talking 6 months, more or less. Um, Arch, it's a rolling release. Arch is not the only one. Rolling release. What the hell is a rolling release? They come out, and they keep on dating that little sucker. Okay. What you get here is the latest of everything forever until a new rolling release version that accumulates everything that has been gathered over the past X amount of months shows up. So maybe let's say you got 2023 rolling release of I don't know, something like that. And then next year they come up with something like this. Means that this one accumulates everything that happened on this one because it's a rolling release. It keeps on rolling and rolling the all the updates and stuff and put them together. Okay, so you don't have to jump or upgrade, do a huge upgrade from one version of the distribution to the newer one there. Now, obviously, by doing this, there always, and I wouldn't say bleeding edge, but I would say there's the probabilities of having an error are greater. Okay, because you're basically by choosing a rolling release, and by the way, rolling release doesn't mean bleeding edge immediately, but it does mean that you're in the edge of testing out certain things that just came out. So every time you see, for example, Mesa, every time you see some specific drivers that or kernels that came out, and then you see this little like the 6.1, actually 6.2 just came out, and you might see it came out like this, and you might see that you're going to start to see 1 and then 2 and then 3. Those are tiny fixes for several issues that obviously anybody that updated to the 6.2 is going to suffer with, um, like me. But that's entirely up to you if you choose a rolling release and if the distribution with a rolling release actually does that for you, because some releases don't, some rolling release distributions don't jump to the latest kernel until a couple of weeks have passed, or they can guarantee stability, or they've done their own testing and yeah, we're sure that we can push this thing here, not only for the kernel but other distribution. I mean, other packages for the distribution. So that's why you're not gonna see a lot of people complaining with the Arch. Maybe some will say, "Oh, this thing has been super stable for me," because it depends on the hardware that they're using. Others might say, "What the hell just happened? Okay, the thing just broke," or maybe an update got pushed and the thing just broke. Um, and with maybe minor fixes, they can fix it and stuff like that. But you got, more stable distribution, so you got more rolling release distribution. Worst case that could happen to you is you picking a Linux distribution that's dead, meaning that compared to Arch, Fedora, OpenSUSE, Ubuntu, Slackware, Gentoo, whichever you want, the amount of developers on it disappear, the activity on it disappear, the community is dead, and things just don't look great for it. Okay? Or you see inside the community division, they start dividing itself and just you know, basically promoting the death of the whole community that's behind that specific distribution. So the worst, I mean, if you're worrying about selecting a stable one or a rolling release, the worst thing that could happen is you picking a distribution that a year later died because there was no support for it, because they were tired of doing it, they were recommending something else. Again, I'm gonna come to CentOS. Okay, that thing, even though you got the CentOS, the Cent stream thingamajig there, it's not the same at all, especially for that work. So that's what I wanted to compare the Windows versions versus distribution versions. Okay, so you get an idea there. In regards to the Arch one, imagine Windows 95 accumulating so many updates that it turns into 98. In 98, accumulating so many updates that it turns to XP or something. And there's always only one Windows to rule them all. Um, So again, that's a distribution, and those are the type of distributions. What are we looking for in a distribution? Like objectively speaking, I don't care about if you like something or you don't like something, or the company did this and I don't like. No, no, no. That's not practical. Okay, that's not really something that um, there's a bunch of things that I don't like about Ubuntu. I don't like snaps, but I do need to be fair. I don't understand them completely, and the reason behind snaps versus app images or Flatpak or other ways of doing it. What I do understand, and when I get the time to actually study them, not just ask the question, because on Ask Ubuntu there's actually a question about that, but it's very generic. But if I were to, like, if somebody, as an engineer, if somebody were to ask me, okay, what would you change in regards to a package management system? Well, we gotta make sure that the dependency hell, and if you can search this on Google, dependency hell, that actually happens way too much on any RPM based distribution. Um, it also happens on Debian distributions, but not at the super crazy level that RPMs do it. Um, it's something that we will avoid because that's like a cancer in the distributions. Two, lower the amount of space that it gets used for package updates. Um, there was, I think it was Fedora that was using a Delta update, which means it was only updating the difference between the package that you already had installed versus the new update for it. I think they're removing that. I might be just BSing you here, but it was a very very great way of downloading just like a small snapshot of the package. It was mainly for internet speeds to help you with that, so it was easy to update the distribution. But I mean, with everybody having faster internet, then it's a lost cause anyhow. But I don't know how that thing went. But that would be the main thing for you to do an update, and wouldn't wait so much as um, you know the package wouldn't be so big. This is mainly, for example, if you're an Nvidia user and you use Windows, then you know what the hell I'm talking about. Every damn Nvidia driver is like 500 megabytes or something. It's super huge. It's super huge. But if you compare that to the Linux version, you're like, why the hell is that 5 times, 6 times less? If you're on Windows and you use a printer, then you know what I'm talking about. Why the hell is software, the drivers for the printer, in the megabytes, many megabytes, okay, of space, but the Linux one, it's a couple of kilobytes. Okay, a worst case scenario is like 5 megabytes or something, because of the software that I also installed. But just the driver, it's almost nothing compared. So it's sometimes it's 50 times, 100 times less than the actual size on the Windows. And so those are things that are very optimized, I would say, on Linux distributions. But that would be one of the ideas of concept of creating this a new package management system. Okay, that's one. The space, the speed, compression, how safety it is, how compatible it is for the environment where it gets used. For example, sometimes Snap doesn't see stuff. Well, it didn't see stuff outside of the Snap environment. Same for Flatpak. It was having that issue too on some packages. Okay, it would go crazy. How the package management system will make the life easier for the developer and the user at the same time, giving them options. So those are things that are taken into consideration for the package management system. I have not analyzed them, so I might be talking in a way that you think I'm super smart, but actually those are things that need to be addressed or analyzed. I have not done that. So this is me as an engineer guessing stuff that has been analyzed for the package software. Okay. So anyway, coming back to what do you look for in a distro? First thing that we look for, hardware compatibility. You're not going to be looking for if Counter-Strike works perfectly or some game works perfectly. No, you're looking for is that thing is going to work on your computer. So if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I did have a couple of boo-boos in regards to the motherboard and the CPU when I was on kernel 5.19. The moment that I updated to 6, some of the things fixed itself, and the moment that I updated to 6.1, everything was just working. With the exception of some drivers for the sound, everything is working perfectly, and not only working perfectly, the performance is great. While I'm talking here, you can actually see that the CPU is running around 5.5 here, and you can also see up here that the temperatures are around 44 degrees. So basically the thing is running smooth and running at this speed. Okay, obviously not all cores, just several of them, but you get the idea that the temperature has actually gone down a lot with better hardware performance and better Linux compatibility with it. So hardware compatibility, main thing, because you want to make sure that your Linux distribution, whichever you pick, is compatible with your hardware. If you're able to install it, especially what they call live um, test or live, like if you install Ubuntu, for example, you're able to start Ubuntu from the pen drive, from the flash drive, USB drive, without installing it. So you can test drive Ubuntu on your computer without actually installing it on the computer. And that will literally tell you how the hardware compatibility is. Like if the thing goes to hell, then you know there's an issue there. It might be fixable, you might not. I can tell you that if we were around 2008 to 2010, 11, you had something like a 60-70% chance of having a hardware issue, incompatibility issue. We're in 2023. It's very hard now. There's still a chance, maybe a 1-2% chance that you might fall into a wireless driver issue or a NVMe issue, or like in the case I tried to install Arch Linux on this hardware that I have. You can see my previous videos about the hardware that I have, and the Western Digital SN850X was not. It did not even work with Arch. It worked with Gen 2. It worked with Clear Linux. It worked with Gadora Linux, I think it's called. It works with several distributions. It didn't work with Arch. So there's a small probability that you might have this issue, and that's why it's great for the distribution to have a way that you can test drive it without actually installing, so you don't waste time there. The second thing that you're looking for is the performance. You want to install Linux because supposedly it's faster, it's lighter compared to Windows, of course. And there have been cases. For example, there's this friend that his wife had a Windows 11, I think it was, laptop from, I forgot, Lenovo, HP, I forgot which company, and it was running super slow. And when I say slow, they were like, holy crap! It takes several minutes to start the computer. And we're talking about a laptop that he bought, last year, 2 years ago. And I told them, why not test Ubuntu? They did. The thing was alive again. The laptop actually started in something around 20 seconds. They were actually able to do everything. Everything was compatible. Every hardware was working great. Sound, video, brightness, wireless, all that. And the performance, I mean, the performance was so huge that she wanted to learn Linux, how to use it, because that's how big of an impact it was. So if you have a distro and you have an impact on somebody that's using Windows like that, great, great. I've I've been, let's put it like this, blessed in helping way too many students. I was a college professor in my original country, and too many students in migrating from Windows to Linux. In the particular case of mine, I mainly Ubuntu, but you got Nopix there, Puppy, and other ones. Okay, and they've been, they moved, they migrated, and most of them, I would say more than 90% of them actually stayed there. So we're talking more than 1,000 people stay on Linux, and they themselves started promoting Linux to others. So like a Linux evangelist or something like that. The third point is easy distro installation, like an out of the box experience. So this is what I'm talking about with the test driving. If you're able to test the distribution in out-of-the-box experience without installing. That gives you a good incentive of how compatible it is and the performance of it. Obviously, it's running through a CD or a DVD or a USB drive, but at least you get an idea of how compatible it is and how you can use it. Okay, so easy distro installation. And then once you actually install it, you shouldn't be guessing what the hell is the, how much should I assign to swap and what's this format here and partitioning. Nobody's gonna do all that. You gotta be a technician. So the easy distro installation should try to cover that. I always do it manually, but that's me. A lot of people are not gonna do that manually. So it should be easy to install. Okay, including the fact that if it detects Windows, it should give you, and obviously this is against what I believe, but they should give you the option of keeping Windows and installing Linux on the side, like sharing the space between both. Okay, it should also give you the option of deleting Windows and eliminating that hellhole. But you get my point. Easy software installation. So it should, while the installation is going along, you should also be able to install the typical things that people install or know which ones typically people install and install them automatically. Or after everything got installed, it should be easy or a little bit intuitive to install the software on the distribution. Okay, on some distributions you gotta like guess where the hell the package manager to install stuff is. On other ones, they actually pop up and show you here the more common things that we install. On other ones, you gotta do like a super high-end course just to learn how to install it. So obviously, it's a completely different experience coming from Windows. But if you've seen Windows 11, then it's actually an easier experience coming from Windows. Software compatibility. So on this one, for example, I come here, okay? If I go to like this switch emulator, I come here, I'm gonna click it. This one works on all distributions. I just download that thing on compress, play it, that's it. If I go to OBS project, I come here and they have a flatpak, but you can imagine how popular Ubuntu is that they actually have this here. So if you're in Ubuntu, just run this lines. Actually, it's just this line and this one, you're done. Why? Because since a bunch of versions ago on Ubuntu, if you run this one, if you add a repository to Ubuntu, it automatically executes this. So it only needs this too. If you go to Handbrake, same thing. You have options here, see? For Linux. If you go to VS Code, like for programming, for example, if I come here, you have a Debian, Ubuntu here, and you have everything else over there. What? Well, they got the snap from Ubuntu. I didn't know. But you get the point. You see Ubuntu here, you see Ubuntu on the other one. There's some packages that literally say, hey, if you have Ubuntu, here's the package for it. Or Debian, which is the mother of the father, how you want to imagine that, of Ubuntu. So that's what I mean when I say, where's the file? Software compatibility. So not only is it easier to associate the distribution that you install with the software that you're about to install, but it's also easier to install it. It should be double click and you're done, or more along the lines of that. Easily find software is also related to that one. So software compatibility. Okay, I see that OBS is compatible with this Ubuntu. Is it easy to find OBS, for example? So if I type OBS, let's wait for the thing to show, and then okay, what's that? Where the hell is OBS? Oh, there's OBS. So if I click it, this shows where the source of it is. So I have the snap versions, or I got the dev version here. Like if I click that one, it will install the Debian version. Okay, and you can see that it's the latest version there. Blah blah blah. If I select the snap one, you can see the versions that they're using there on the snap ones. Okay, the really old ones, but at least you have the option. Okay, of seeing this here, and you're like, obviously this is what that I've actually installed. I don't know why it shows that I have not installed it. I'm actually recording with it. I think maybe I installed a Flatpak or something. Okay, support. Another great one. All these ones are critical. Easy to install software, compatibility with the hardware, the performance should be great, the installation experience should be great, or should tend to be great, and then you have support. So that's why I'm talking about the Ubuntu part here. Support from news outlets. So you got Foronix that mentions Ubuntu a lot and tests Ubuntu a lot and derivatives of Ubuntu. Okay, that's one. You got Oh My God Ubuntu. Okay, which another great source of news, mainly Ubuntu. I'm, and by the way, Ubuntu is listening to the community now, especially for gaming, and that's why we're seeing some of those performance gains that we've been seeing for the past uh, one or two distributions ago on Ubuntu. Most likely that's why. And and yeah, they've been working on this hard. But you got Ubuntu, you got Phoronix, you got other sources. If we go to Ask Ubuntu, which is this thing that I was mentioning, I was one of the former uh, moderators here. If we look at the the amount of users, for example, you can literally see that technical computer related enthusiasts here, um, they have, you know, in amount of users, they're over Ubuntu, which is one distribution out of, you saw how many there, like a bunch of them. Okay, there's more than 1,000, and this one is above Unix and Linux, which is basically the rest of them all put together. I don't know if there's another one down here, but here's basically all of them put together. That's organized by users. If we organize that by traffic, you see that this one is on top of it, and well, here's more or less the traffic, okay? And we're talking just a little bit over the whole traffic for Ubuntu. So you can imagine one distribution basically englobes the equal amount in the stack exchange network, of course, of all other distributions. So in regards to support, this is overwhelming. We're not talking 2 times better, 5 times better, 10 times better, 50 times better, etc., etc. We're talking maybe 1,000 times better than most other distributions. And this is just the stack exchange, because you got the Ubuntu forum, you got discourse, which is another one that you can come up and actually answer stuff. I've been very critical about some of the, yeah, like this one. I've been very vocal, let's put it like that. They actually explained to me why they were doing and all that from the point of view of the developer in regards to why they're not removing Flatpak, but disabling as an automatic package, which I did not know it was there in the beginning. I normally what I would do, if you want to use Flatpak on Ubuntu, you know just do this, and that's it. And then you can install Flatpaks as an Ubuntu package, like a Debian package. You're done. That's the only thing that we're removing. So you run one command and you're done. But you got that much traffic here. Okay, you can see I don't know, questions per day or something like that. You can see same thing here, and there's more activity in the Ask Ubuntu than on the Unix and Linux overall. Okay. Um, well, here you can see how many 131,000 visits a day versus 106 for the super user, and I believe it's the same thing here. There it is. And questions per day here, you see 52. And questions in Ask Ubuntu 75. So it's very likely that you would find some of the questions that you have about Ubuntu here. Okay. So that's in regards to community-driven help. This is a question and answer site. In regards to work or tendencies or trends, here's, for example, in server-related or cloud-related environments. So you got on Linux, basically it's twice as much as Debian, and what, 5 times more, almost 5 times more than um, 4 times more than CentOS, and then from there on, it just I don't even need to mention it, but you get the point. Okay, so You can analyze this as the probabilities of having a job. So you're twice as much likely to have a job if you know Ubuntu than Debian, which is super stupid because literally almost all the commands on Ubuntu are Debian based. So I mean, you can sum this up basically in if you're looking for work, just study Debian Ubuntu. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Um, CentOS, you can see that it's dropping all that, etc., etc., etc. So it's basically opportunities here that you're seeing, and the percentage in which, well, here you can see Ubuntu is used by basically 32% of all websites who you actually use Linux. That W3 Tech has actually monitored. Okay, if we go to the Ubuntu Cloud Stats, I was actually looking for specific. There was a site that was Cloud Stats something that actually was grabbing stats from Amazon, and the stats there were something around 65% of all cloud um, servers, let's put it like that, or instances in the case of Amazon, were Ubuntu based, were related to Ubuntu. So it was huge. I can't find the site anymore, but it was something like the cloud stats, or something along the lines. If you can find the site, it's basically a simple site that shows you the graphs, and you can actually tell which Amazon distro center you want target, and it shows you like a little graph, like similar to this one. Um, in regards to, let me see. I don't know why I was. Yeah, these are worthless. Let me see what this is. Okay, so there's a lot of clickbait in regards to articles like this. So the rise and fall of Ubuntu, yeah, it's gonna die because it did the Amazon thing in 2018 and the snaps, and they tried to do Unity, and then they backtracked to GNOME again. And by the way, I'm a KDE user. I've always loved KDE. I stopped using KDE when they jumped to 4 because first it wasn't polished enough. In 2 it was hell. I actually lived through 4.0, point 1, point 2, and then I was like, holy crap. And then I just jumped to Unity at that time. And I've seen it so far. I love it because KDE, compared to GNOME, it gives you a lot of freedom. In gaming performance, obviously, it's lacking. It's not lacking a lot, but it's being still being polished. But in general, if you want a lot of freedom, dude, KDE, KDE. Um, but coming to stuff like this is just, I mean, look at the distro hopper, really. So they're just, it's a clickbait. They're fetching into the whole premise of issues with Ubuntu. It's like you making a mistake and then they start publishing a lot about that. Just it gets tired, okay? And for example, the Amazon thing was fixed from one version to the other one. The end. The snaps, the slowness. I remember the slowness. Like just searching for the thing for the package was super slow. You can compare snaps now, and they're actually at the same speed, actually faster than .deb packages, and at the same speed of Flatpak or maybe better. Okay. The only difference that I've actually seen is that snaps remove packages much faster, like 10 times faster than a Flatpak. And a Flatpak, it takes longer to remove it, but you can't use removing a package as an argument for using one of the package management systems. It's a very lazy argument. So it's just something that I'm not in favor of snaps yet, but it's something that I did want to put there into perspective. So let's come back here. And yeah, so you can see the support is overwhelming. Overwhelming is the word here. So in the case of Ubuntu, extras, specific software compatibility. So for example, in the work, cPanel. You know what cPanel is? CentOS panel. So if you have cPanel, you need CentOS. But when the cPanel issue happened, let's go here. I don't know if they actually deleted the question that I actually put a post or comment on their forum talking about Ubuntu. I mean, they said, nope, And then this whole thing happened. And guess what? Yup. So now they're offering cPanel. cPanel no longer supports cPanel on Ubuntu and blogs. You gotta update to yeah. But point being, now cPanel works on Ubuntu. Okay. But one of the years ago, before the CentOS dying thing happened, it was only you were only able to install it on Red Hat or Red Hat related distributions like CentOS and all that. So that's why specific software compatibility for that case. There's a lot of scientific companies that use mainly Ubuntu. Gaming, when the whole Steam happened with Proton, guess which distribution was actually the main one working within there? Ubuntu. In work related, there's more opportunities in Ubuntu than any other distribution. Okay. Could that change? Yeah. Is that the gold standard? No. Is it working right now? Yep. So on gaming, there's a lot of developers actually work on Ubuntu or in Ubuntu too. Easy to maintain, less hassles, issue, etc. So this comes back to the rolling release mentioning. So when a distribution updates itself, and I need to be fair here, when I was between Ubuntu, I would say 11.04 or 11.10 to I would say what Ubuntu 19, so we're talking 8 years. The probabilities of me doing upgrade and the thing failing was like 50%. And when I say failing is the drivers had an issue, I needed to fix this or not. Obviously, in my case, I know, but not a lot of people will know. So at that moment, upgrading a distribution, and we're talking about a stable distribution, had hassles, had some issues with it. Uh, Now, fast forward, and for example, the Ubuntu that I'm using right now has actually come from 2020. So I did Ubuntu 2004, and then 2010, 2104, 2110, 2204, 2210, which is this one. I have not had any issues. When 2304 comes out, I'm gonna do something that I typically do. I never upgrade like that without removing. I'm gonna because there's you need to clean up some stuff. So I'm gonna be basically installing the 2304 from scratch, and that's it. Um, so easy to maintain. All of that is in regards to upgrading, in regards to you doing a simple update and not having the thing crash. Okay. Sometimes, for example, let me do it here. Sometimes you run the software updater, and sometimes it says a partial upgrade because maybe it was checking something and the packages were not ready to upgrade or the dependencies were not ready to upgrade. Typically, I tell people just wait like an hour or two. Holy crap! Okay, so when I see this, it means a new Nvidia driver just came out. Yep. Okay, so you can see that I'll be installing very soon the 89 one. Okay, let's go back here. Easy to maintain, learn and work opportunity. So this is for any distribution. This is not Ubuntu related. This is for any distribution, and I encourage you, if you're a beginner on Linux, to jump to multiple distributions just to learn how they work. If you're tired of that, like in my case, I already jumped through more than 50 and I stopped jumping around 2015, 2016. So we're talking jumping between 2001 and, what, 15 years later. So 15 years of hopping, distro hopping, gave me a lot of perspective into knowing that I'm not supposed to be hopping so much. But I did learn a lot of things, but one of the things that I learned is that I could have learned much more by staying on a single one and hopping just X amount much, and that's it. So I didn't need to jump so many distributions. I could have just checked the families, the big families here. Okay, I could have tested one or two in this family and one or two here and one or two here, and just to get an idea. Red Hat here, Debian, Slackware. Are we missing another one here? Weren't there like four main? Here's the Arch, by the way. You got Red Hat. I swear we're missing one parent, additional parent here. Well, by the way, if you do want to learn without hopping so much, use Linux from scratch. That's basically creating your own kernel, your own everything. Linux from scratch. There's a couple of books that you have to. Oh yeah, so you have to read this whole thing. Have to, and then this one. Even though they're separated, for me these two are. It's like one single book, okay, that you have to read. And once you feel familiar with these two, then go with this one, which is the automated part, and the hints, of course, hints and patches. And then you can create your own distribution, which is part of this whole support and community. Okay, because if you do create your own, you gotta offer this to any of the users that you have, and you gotta tend to their problems and all that. So that's great for the learning. Okay, you don't need to hop so much. And for work related, it's obvious. It's Ubuntu. Okay. The alternative in another service would be Red Hat, but you got those two big ones. Okay. Well, Ubuntu or Debian, it's the same thing for me. You're also looking for a distribution that's more compatible with much of the software that's out there, that can back you up with engineers, developers, and basically quality assurance behind it for the community. So you're not just talking to 3 or 4 or 5 developers or the creators of it. You're actually talking to a huge community. As you saw on the Ask Ubuntu, we're talking about what, something like probably 500,000 members in there. This is very important. Knowing that you'll be joining a distribution that's not gonna die, or little by little start dying. Here you can see a lot of the ones that die. I sound like a Kid Chameleon in Sega. Die. Okay, so yeah, you can see a lot of them actually die, and this is very sad. Well, Nopix is still there. What does that mean? Nopix die? Well, you can see that a lot of the derivatives of Nopix were. Oh, I also use Sandrox. Yeah. You can see a lot of the ones those die, and there's a lot of ones that, because of the amount of work and effort that they needed, they created a branch to to tackle something, to try to do something different, and the thing just so knowing that you're picking a good distribution, that you have good support, that you can find fixes quickly, and it's not gonna die, so you don't waste your time, it's very good too. And then lastly, which is the reason for this channel, is the gaming performance. Okay, I call it the last of the Linux blogs because I've spent more than 15 years promoting Linux, and one of the roadblocks was actually gaming. And because of what's happening with Proton, what's happening with VKD 3D, DXVK, Wine, Lutrix, Bottles, and so on and so forth, this is turning into not so much a roadblock, but just a blessing there. You've seen the performance benefits of using the same games on Windows 11 versus Ubuntu. And you can see how it's kicking ass. And we're talking about games that were made for Windows, and they're running better on Linux. LOL. So this is becoming less of a roadblock than actually a blessing now. Okay. So with all this said and mentioned and being objective about all this should give you an idea on why you need to install Ubuntu. No, I'm just kidding. This should give you an idea on how you can go about choosing the Ubuntu distribution. Oh my god, the Linux distribution that you want to. That's my subconscious selling you the package there. That should give you an idea on how you can look for the Linux distribution to practice. Do note that this one, and that's why I ended up talking to a lot of Arch users. Arch is not an easy distribution to install. You need the same experience as Gen 2 or others. It's very similar to, I mean, not as complex as Gen 2, but it's not an easy installation because it still uses the old ways of installing it that were like 1998, 99. Um, and the performance, just comparing it, it's all basically the same as Ubuntu. I was expecting a lot more. Let's put it like that. Even Gen 2 at stage 3 compile, it's 1% more or less better than Ubuntu, which is very different when I actually did the benchmark. We're talking 2004, 2005, where uh, at that time, I think it was 2005, Gen 2 on the same computer was 3 times faster than Ubuntu. 3 times, not 1%. 3 times faster than Ubuntu. And coming back several years later, now it's basically the same thing. So it's just a thing about taste. In which one do you want to stay? And what's important for you? Do you value support, or just are you a loner? I can do it myself. Do you value easy to install software, or at least options to install software, or how that software is compatible or targeting that specific distribution? Okay, gaming performance, coding performance, etc. All things that you're using for your day-to-day basis. So with that said, pick whichever distribution you like. To answer the specific question, why did I pick Ubuntu? It's because I hopped, in my particular case, by the way, I hopped in too many. I learned by making a lot of mistakes, and I ended up in Ubuntu and staying in Ubuntu. And even I tried to leave Ubuntu testing others, and we're talking 15 years of hopping. And no, it was not worth the hassle, the extra effort just to get a minimum amount of performance, and all that. It was just it was more headaches than stuff. So I say Ubuntu. Yep, I don't. I'm not really fond of a lot of things that. Not a lot of things. Just there's like 2 or 3 things. Like let me just show you. So on the snap list, this is all I got there. If you can see, I actually removed Firefox and installed the PPA of Firefox. The end. That's it. But this is all that I'm using on snap list. Okay. And if I do a Flatpak, oops, list, look, and then I ask you, which one do you think I'm using more? Obviously Flatpak. And you don't see me complaining about, oh my god, they're gonna remove. No. And if they do remove Flatpak, I just, install Flatpak. Wow, that crippled me. That's it. I'm done. And then I can just install. But I use more Flatpak than the actual Snap. And I can't complain about the Snap because if you come here, for example, you can see Flutter, Android Studio, that thing runs beautiful. It just runs beautiful. Same thing for Postman, which is in Flatpak. So I can't complain with Snap's performance, at least now on 22.10, Ubuntu 22.10, or Handbrake or OBS. I mean, you can see me recording right now. So on both of them, they work great. I tested Handbrake on OBS, and Postman on Snap, and they're nice. So in regards to the package stuff there. So anyway, pick whichever you want. Don't follow a lot of BS that you see out there. Look for the answers yourself. You can ask me. I'll be objective about it, but try to look for the answers, or try to look for multiple sources to get the answer, not just one. And that's going to help you pick the appropriate distribution. In my particular case, I do offer support. It's free support to anybody that uses Ubuntu. I was doing it for Linux Mint, but for some reason there are things that don't work as well on Linux Mint that Ubuntu, and it looks like it's something related with the type of hardware. It's not Linux Mint per se. It's something about the hardware, and I'm getting the feeling that Ubuntu versions, they do include additional stuff as either modules or inside the kernel to be more compatible, which is the end result of Ubuntu, as always, trying to be as more generic and compatible as possible. So anyway, that's all I needed to say about this. Choose whichever you want. My recommendation, obviously, you know which one it is, but try to test as many as you can. And when you get tired, you know where to look for me. And if you stay with one, great. Stay with that one. Learning the more that you can learn for that specific one, the better. The better for you, no? Because it'll be part of your life for a long time. With that said, big hugs to everybody. Think positive as always.